Welcome to the Grace Story Podcast, where inspiring stories are brought to life. This podcast is made possible by Grace College and Seminary, located on the shores of Winona Lake in the great state of Indiana. I'm your host, Dr. Drew Flam. This is the Grace Story Podcast. Today on the podcast, we have Andre Stone, a senior health science major here at Grace College. He also serves this year as the student body president. Andre hails from Brownsburg, Indiana. Welcome to the podcast, Andre.
Thanks. Love to be here.
So I was a student body president at my alma mater, and it was a wonderful experience for me, but I didn't have to do it during COVID. So I'm excited to hear kind of what that's been like for you during this period of time. But first I want to ask, so last year, when does running for student body president happen at Grace?
So running starts when obviously you turn in your application to be student body president, and that normally takes place in the first few weeks of March or in late February.
Okay. So had COVID shut things down yet?
No, I had just decided that I wanted to be student body president and put on some little event in the Science Center that's basically come meet me. I want your votes. What do I have to do to get your votes? That type of thing. And there were a few people that showed up. It was nice, fun. But then after I went on my Go Encounter trip and we got back, that's when COVID really started to hit us.
Okay. So had you been elected by the time, or
no? Elections
happened while students were at home?
Well, we were still on campus when elections happened, and then very shortly after we got sent home.
Okay, gotcha. Wow. Did you run against others, or was it just you?
Yeah, it was me and one of my friends, actually.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So when I ran, my now wife ran with me. So we ran together, she as VP and me as president, and no one ran against us. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure we would not have won, but it worked out. So you got elected not knowing you were going to have a COVID presidency, right?
Yes.
And so it's probably been a little bit different than you expected.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about what this year has entailed for you in that role. What has it looked like? And then from your perception, how's that maybe been different from what other student body presidents have experienced because of COVID?
So the first major difference was that during the summer, I was asked to be on a team with a bunch of other people from administration, and we tried to figure out should Grace have school next year? How is it going to work? What do we need to do what policies do we need to come up with to make sure that students can actually be on campus and at least try to enjoy their time the best they can?
Wow. So from the beginning, you were kind of thrust into, those are heavy conversations.
Yeah, it was definitely not at all what I expected I was going to be doing as student body president. I thought it was just going to be I go to meetings with Aaron Crabtree, the dean of students, and every once in a while meet with Dr. Cadup and try and explain to them what the students want. But I had a lot more coming than I realized.
That's right. And you've done some work with strategic planning. You've been on all sorts of things as it's related to big decisions that have to be made.
Yeah. So I'm actually not entirely sure how many different committees or subcommittees that I've been on throughout the year, but we've tried to come up with plans and amend those plans just based on student feedback, faculty feedback, that sort of thing.
Wow. So what are some things that you would say, we're jumping right in here. So what are some things you would say have been learning experiences for you this year? What have you learned about leadership, about your role advocating for students?
First off, I learned that communication is the most important thing in the world. I wasn't a great communicator with everybody before I wanted to be student body president, but being student body president, especially this year, I've been forced to become good at communication.
communicate, and then when you feel like you've communicated enough, do it just a little bit more.
Yeah, make
right?
sure everyone understands you understand what everyone else is saying, because a whole lot of stuff can get messed up if you don't.
What are some ways, if you have specific examples, that'd be great, that you have and your fellow, in fact, let's go here. So the way it's set up, right? So you're the student body president. Who else is a part of student government on campus?
So currently we have myself as student body president. We have one administrative assistant, which is basically like a secretary. And then we have a few class representatives. We started the year with 6 total class representatives, and then one of them had to leave due to some unfortunate circumstances, and then another one graduated halfway through the year. So we are currently down to 4.
Okay, so you have, do you call them senators? Or
Yes.
Okay, and they're elected by their class.
Correct.
And then together with you as the student body president, you guys advocate on behalf of students, speak into policies, procedures, those type of things.
Yes.
Okay. What are some things this year that you have been able to advocate for on behalf of students?
This year, I think the number one thing has been the dorm regulations, I guess I would say. Whether that's for apartments, we got open dorms changed. It started the year as no one can go to any floor. You can only be in your room. You have to wear a mask at all times, that sort of thing. To now, we have gotten it so that students from the same apartment can go to different floors of the apartment. We can go into different dorms, but we still have to wear a mask. We started the year without any open dorm hours at all, and then quickly realized that was not a good idea at all. And now we have open dorms throughout all of campus.
So had to throughout tweak and change and, probably loosen and tighten and all various types of scenarios.
Right.
Yeah. And then this semester, right, testing and all of that makes a difference on what we can and can't do.
Yes, I think the testing this semester is very beneficial because it eliminates some of the unknown.
Yeah. You kind of know where everybody's at every week. And has it been, what's the testing experience been like for you?
Very simple, very easy. The longest part is me walking from Kent over to the GREC, honestly, in the cold. Oh, that's rough. But the testing itself, it's self-administered, so you just get a swab and then swab your nose for 15 seconds each nostril and hand it back, and you're good to go.
Yeah. I've done it a couple times as well and found it to be pretty easy. Well, thank you for just kind of giving us a little picture into what it's been like this year as student body president, and certainly a unique and in some ways difficult year, certainly. But other ways, God's really blessed in unique ways. But I want to dig back into your story a little bit. So you're from Brownsburg, Indiana, and I think you said you went to Bethesda Christian, right?
Correct.
Okay, which we have some alums out there who would have familiarity with Bethesda and maybe attended Bethesda themselves from that arena. And you transferred into Grace. So where did you go first, and then how did you decide Grace was the place for your face, as they say?
Yeah. So, my senior year, I was trying to figure out where I wanted to go to college. I visited 4 or 5 different schools in Indiana. I was certain I didn't want to go out of state, so I just looked around here locally. I went to IU, and then I enjoyed my visit there. It was really fun. I knew a lot of people that were planning on going there or who had already attended that said it was a great college. And then the last visit I took was to Grace, and it was funny because one of my best friends from elementary school and I visited on the exact same day. We got on the same tour.
Oh, wow.
And we had no idea that either of us were going to be there. So that was really funny. But I decided to attend IU, my first semester just right out of high school. And I did it mostly because I got a lot of scholarship money to go there,
Sure.
just with grades and stuff like that. But I didn't really feel like it was a place for me. Like once I started attending classes, I didn't feel like really valued there. I just felt like another person. Um, and that just kind of didn't really sit well with me. And so I think about halfway through the semester, I realized that I wanted to transfer, but I wasn't entirely sure where or when. And then like I prayed about it, asked God, and um, I ended up between Grace and Purdue. And once I thought about it more, I was like, Purdue will probably just be a slightly different experience than what I'm having here. And so then I decided to come to Grace my second semester of freshman year.
Okay, so you transferred in second semester freshman year. What was your major then, and is it the same now?
So I knew I wanted to be pre-med. I wanted to be a doctor. And so when I first transferred here, my major was biology, but then I just changed it slightly to health science.
Okay, so kind of in the same realm, but you've always been in the sciences. What other experiences have you had at Grace? So kind of culminated with the student body president, but I know you've been involved in other things. What are some of those things that you've been engaged with?
So I'm a part of the SID department, and that is the sports information department. And Josh Newhart is the head of that department. And
Another Brownsburg alum there. So yeah, wow.
Bethesda connection.
Oh, Bethesda, that's what it is. Bethesda, yeah, he went to Bethesda too, yeah.
Yeah, so that was really cool once I realized that he was the head of that. And what we do is we just do all of the stats and run the table for each of Grace's athletic games. So like we'll run the shot clock, game clock, video, those type of things.
Gotcha. And Josh has won a lot of awards, but we know truly it's you and these other students behind the scenes that are helping win all these awards he gets.
Yeah, Josh trains us well.
Okay, so you're part of SID. Any other things that you've been able to be a part of here at Grace?
Those are the two main like things that I think that stick out. Other than that, I participate in intramurals pretty frequently. Hang out with friends, study, the classic.
Lots of studying in your realm, I'm guessing.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I think you said you have a genetics test tonight.
Yeah. Yes, I have a genetics test. I was just studying for that like right before this. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, you'll someday have to explain to me how genetics works, because must admit, as a communication arts alum, I'm rather low on my science. Okay, so what have been what ways do you think that you have grown? How has this experience at Grace grown you as a man?
I think I've become more sure of myself, I would say. Because before my time at Grace, I think I was more, I guess, wishy-washy is the best way I could put it. Like, I wouldn't really make a decision, and then if I did, I would be like, oh, well, maybe that's not the right one. But I feel like God has been teaching me to, like, make a decision, stick with it, and, like, see it through to the end type of thing. I think that's one of the main things, at least right now, that God has been teaching me.
Yeah. If you were to talk to, current or future prospective students at Grace about getting involved, whether it's whatever, the various things you've been involved in, but what's your encouragement as far as why should they consider getting involved in various aspects of campus?
Why should students get involved in various aspects of campus? I would say, one, it's just like it's fun. It's fun getting to know people, getting to work with other people that you might not just gravitate towards normally. I know there's a lot of people on the SID team that even though they really like sports, I'm super into sports, I probably wouldn't have just gone up to them and started having a conversation with them, but we ended up being great friends even though that. But also it looks good on a resume. That's always a major plus. Funny enough, my friends told me that's why I should run for student body president, and at first that's why I did it, was just so it looks good on my resume, hey, it'll help you get into med school. And I was like, maybe you're right. But after thinking about it, I felt like I could make a real change here.
So I heard some really good stuff there. So, you just said being able to make a difference, make a change. And, you could have never known COVID was coming when you put your hat in the ring. And so, that's looked different than you expected. But nonetheless, your impact has been real. It's a resume builder, which is a great thing. And, we talk about the Christ-centered community here. And you've been able to meet students that aren't who you have class with, but who you've become friends with because you're in this different new context and you have a shared common interest.
Right.
That's awesome. And I would add one more in my case. I got a wife out of the whole student,
Yeah.
leadership thing. So that worked out pretty well for me too. So looking forward, you're graduating this year.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And then what does you mentioned being a doctor? What does that process look like for you?
So I graduate this May, and then in June or July, I haven't fully picked a date yet. I will be taking
Don't be wishy-washy, okay? Just pick one and stick to it. Yeah.
I will be taking the MCAT,
Okay.
and after that, I'll just be looking for a job and applying to med schools up until August. August is when I want to have my applications for all the different med schools. I want to have those in. But hopefully I'll have a job by then, and then I'll be taking a gap year while those applications get processed and they decide if they want me or not. And then hopefully in a year's time, I will have completed my interviews for the different med schools and I'll be accepted into one.
Awesome. So MCATs, get some work done, do your applications, and then hopefully start med school the year after that.
Correct, yeah.
Do you have a particular vein of medicine that you want to go into, or are you just kind of going in wide open, interested to see what happens?
So right now, I really want to be an orthopedic surgeon, specifically with joints or sports medicine. Those are the two specific fields that I really enjoyed. I got to shadow an orthopedic surgeon, not this past summer because of COVID, but the summer before that. And I thought it was a lot of fun. I was like, let me do it now. Just show me what to do. I got this.
So you'll be replacing my knee in a few years is what you're telling me.
Hopefully, yes.
Well, you came to the right town. Did you know that coming up here that you were, orthopedic capital of the world? And
yeah, I heard that on my visit that there's all the orthopedic centers around here, and yeah, it's honestly pretty cool looking at it.
So shout out to any alums working at an orthopedic company who want to help Andre get a job working in a lab for the year before he goes to med school. So
yes.
Reach out to him and help him get a good experience. Is that what you kind of hope to do, is get a job kind of in a lab or doing something medically related for a year?
Yeah, that would be ideal. Just a lab job or any medical field, really.
Yeah. Good. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk with us a little bit today and just share your experience. Appreciate the many ways that you've stepped up to leadership, and especially during this COVID time, and thrust into many leadership roles you could have never expected. And I know that will benefit you well long into the future.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and thank you to all of you for listening to the Grace Story podcast today. Music was written and produced by Dr. Wally Brath, Assistant Professor of Worship Arts here at Grace. Thanks to our co-producers, Andrew Palladino and Rick Neer. If you could do us a huge favor and rate, comment on this podcast wherever you retrieved it from, we would be so grateful. Until next time, live your best Grace story today.